going on, guys? It's another edition of Time Out here on 24 Flix. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with my co-host here, Mr. Chris Cuff. How you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing fantastic. The NBA, remember that used to be the slogan? It's fantastic.
This game
So
is
much,
fantastic. Yep.
so much sports news going on, man. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to get into this stuff.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into Major League Baseball as the Tampa Bay Rays continue to roll. We'll talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll also talk some NBA playoffs here. And you never know, this is the reason why you should tune in here, because somebody is going to get a timeout tonight. I'm definitely raring to go. With that being said, let's talk about the Tampa Bay Rays in Major League Baseball. They continue their torrid pace here. Now 13-0 after defeating the Boston Red Sox today, 9-3. It wasn't all great news because they lose starter Jeffrey Springs to some arm tightness. No telling how that's going to work out. And that's probably most likely the thing that's going to stop this Tampa Bay Rays team from really succeeding, getting to the playoffs, and possibly winning a World Series. I get it. It's so young in the season, but what they've done so far, outscoring teams 101-30. And Chris, you watched them. I mean, let's talk about this team a little bit.
It's phenomenal. I mean, I don't have the Bally Sports package, so I can't catch all of their games. I've seen clips. Congratulations for the Rays. They're excellently run franchise for sure. They breed success down there. They're good like every year. And they don't have the budget or the salary to match, my Yankees or the Red Sox, who are, again, looks like they're having problems again. And what's a shame, and this will go to our next story, is that I see clips of the Rays and just players on the field in all these empty blue seats in the stands down at the Trop.
I got to correct you here. I'm already going to get a timeout for you. Because here's the thing, the ownership actually closed off the 300 section. So it looks, a little bit barren, but that's by ownership. It has definitely been more packed up this year. The fans are supporting this team. The low attendance was on Easter at 11,000, but it's Easter.
Okay.
With the Rays winning this game today, they joined two other teams, the 1987 Milwaukee Brewers and, of course, the 1982 Atlanta Braves. So, my friend, we're talking about history. Of course, not only losing Jeffrey Springs, but also Zach Eflin. But they get their number one prospect starting last night.
Yeah.
And, we'll see how this goes going forward with the Tampa Bay Rays. But I think the most shocking thing is, here's a team last year that was eliminated in the postseason by the Cleveland Guardians. I almost said the other one, and only scored one run. Ever since they've come out this year, they're averaging 8 to 9 runs a game. Wow. Their pitching is top. They're not giving up home runs. Their bullpen is top notch. Their defense is top notch. Now, can they continue that? And people will say, well, they would the benefit of an easy schedule when you play the Tigers and the Nationals and now
the Red Sox.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, everybody can
come on.
This. Like, if they continue to win like this, what is going to be the excuse at the end of the day? And the whole, fans not supporting it. We're going to get into this, but you had a story here that hit my desk. I was upset about it. Tell me what a local writer had to say about
I smell a timeout coming on. It's like when you drive around the road and you smell some brisket outside. All right. Orlando Central columnist, I almost said communist, columnist, Mike Bianchi, who I know, he's a nice guy. I see him all the time at events and stuff. He says Tampa Bay does not deserve the red hot Rays, but Orlando does. He's saying the Rays are one of the best run organizations in professional sports, which I said, do more with less than any other team in any other sport, which I said, yet they still have the fourth worst attendance in all of baseball, which is better than last year. But last year before that and the year before that was the third worst attendance. So they made the playoffs in both seasons, which is amazing. But the translation in his eyes is the Tampa Bay area simply does not deserve such a quality team Time to demolish the idea of baseball will ever work there. Move the Rays. Move them to Orlando.
Oh, okay. Well, here's a timeout. Because first, who's going to pay for the stadium? Is ownership actually going to pay half for that stadium? More than likely, he's not, and the community or the city of Orlando is not going to pay for it. Furthermore, everybody wants to dump on the Tampa Bay area fans here, but what they don't understand is ownership for the last 8 to 10 years, especially Stu Sternberg, has had nothing great to say about the fan base here. And basically, the fans are tired of it. On top of it, the location of the stadium. I get it, they win, but when you have to compete with Yankee and Red Sox fans, you have to win some World Series championships. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, and also Mike Bianchi out there. How many World Series championships in the 25 years the Rays have won? Zero. They've won. The Florida Marlins won 2. The Arizona Diamondbacks won 1. I'm not saying they're not a well-ran organization, but if they could just spend maybe over $100 million, maybe we would be talking about a World Series championship. Instead, we're dumping on the fans, and you need to dump on ownership because they need to do more. The Tampa Bay Lightning go all in. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers go all in. The Tampa Bay Rays don't go all in. That's why fans don't show up. So when sports broadcasters, writers come out and say Tampa Bay area doesn't deserve the Rays, hey, I'm not having that at all. Time outs.
My big beef with Tampa, and I've told you, is the location of the stadium. I wish they would move it into Tampa, on the Tampa side of the Bay. But I know that's all that St. Pete has over there, sports wise. I mean, besides the Rowdies, but that's their big ticket out there. They don't want to move it. So, I mean, I know I would go if they were in Tampa. I would go to Rays games. I would go to Bucks games. A lot of people go down to see the Lightning. We would support and go down to see the Rays.
Sure.
But not way over there, rush hour traffic, crossing the Bay. I mean, it's impossible. It's like a 3-hour drive from up here. It's nuts.
Yeah, it is nuts. And on top of it, the games are faster now. The games are also on at 6:40, so it's more difficult to get out there. And I get it. Once again, they have a great product, but you have to do more than just have a great product on the field. You also have to keep your stars entrenched on this team, especially the fan favorites. How much talent, Mike, has walked out this door? And basically, the Rays could have won plenty of World Series championships. Furthermore, Stu can't decide where he wants to go because he wants the community of Tampa or Hillsborough County, Pinellas County to pay for the whole stadium themselves instead of paying half for it. Because, these days, there's not a city out there willing to pay nearly $1 billion and just have Stu. And there's no guarantee if you get a new stadium, a la the Miami Marlins, even though they won their championships, but they won that before they got the new stadium, that you're going to be competitive, that you're going to spend money. And oh, by the way, guys out there that continue to dump on this fan base, the Rays have had one of the lowest payrolls in all of baseball. The last team with one of the lowest payrolls in baseball to win a World Series was the 2003 Florida Marlins at 26. You got to play the numbers. If the Rays would go all in, if they would spend more money, if they would cater to their fans, they would have a larger fan base.
Look at us talking baseball. Look at us talking baseball.
Absolutely. I love baseball. I got to ask you, you've watched some of these games. Do you like the new pitching clock? Do you like all the rules that they put into place? Because I can tell you right now, I think I like it. It's cut down 30 minutes off of the game. The game averaged last year about 3 hours, and now it's about 2.5 hours. Do you like the new rules? I can tell you who doesn't like the new rules. It's the beer vendors.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. I love the new rules. I mean, it's ridiculous having a guy having to step into the box, take a pitch, step out, adjust his crotch, adjust his glove, adjust his other glove, wipe his hands, look down for the sign, step one foot in, step the other foot in, and then get set. That's one pitch. So all of that nonsense is cut. I love it. I think it's great for baseball. They really needed it because they were hurting. But speaking of hurting, like you mentioned, beer sales, they are getting killed because they're not. They had to, I know in a lot of stadiums, they had to extend how many innings they sell beer.
Yeah, to the
because the
7th
games are
or
going
8th
so
inning.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
crazy.
I mean, it's definitely having an impact. And going back to the Rays ownership here, I own a steakhouse. It's called Blake's Well Done Steaks, right? And I want to serve
Mhm.
my steak well done. And they don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to have well done steaks. They want something, or they don't want to buy what I have to offer. So what am I going to do? Am I going to higher my ticket prices? Am I going to talk about the customers at my steakhouse, or am I going to try to cater to them? If you
Mhm.
said cater to them, then that's the reason why this Rays ownership once again is losing out on fans, because this owner continues to come out year after year and say how he can't sustain. So let me get this straight. The blue collar people in the Tampa Bay area who make 32,000, who are struggling with their rent and gas prices and everything else, have
Mhm.
to come out to a game, and 15 to 17,000 isn't enough. That's the reason why you're losing fans also. The Rays
Yep.
ownership is not catered. Just like I'm talking about the steakhouse, I would cater to my fans, because if I didn't, Blake's
Be out of
steak.
business.
Yeah, exactly. You take
Yeah.
a fork and stick it in me, stick it into the steak.
That's right,
So
because
it's
you'd be
not like
done.
the steak that I make. Yeah,
Let's go
exactly.
to your wheelhouse, man. The Tampa Bay
Yes.
Buccaneers. What's been going on? What's going on with the Bucks?
Well, Devin White, it was reported by Jenna Lane of ESPN that he's asked for a trade. Of course, there was some passive aggressive behavior on his part on Instagram, where he was kind of saying it's been fun with the Bucks, and then he came out when a writer called him out and said, "No, I'll be back next year." But it certainly seems like he's not happy with his contract situation going into it. The Bucks picked up his fifth-year option. He's making $11.7 million, but he wants to be a $100 million linebacker. The problem with that, Chris, is he's one of the most inconsistent linebackers in the league, and he's not carried over that performance from his 2020 postseason. He doesn't make enough good tackles. His technique isn't good enough, and on top of it, coverage-wise, he's not great. He fell off last year. He wasn't good.
Mhm.
Jason Light came out today at his press conference saying Devin White's going to be a part of this team. They have no plans to trade him. And at the end of the day, I don't know how much value you can get for a player like White, who wants a big time contract, who's inconsistent. He is the 5th overall pick in 2019. So for
Mhm.
me, if the Bucks are going to trade him, you have to at least get a number 1 pick. And I don't think there's a team out there that's willing to not only pay an off linebacker $100 million, but also give up draft capital. So the Bucks are going to keep him. And if he decides to hold out, so be it.
So be it. That's the business of sports, for
Well, that's
sure.
it. That's it. And earn it. I mean, if you're an
Yeah.
inconsistent player and basically the organization is telling you you'll live up to the hype, and if you don't live up to the hype, then you're going to be out of here. But it's such a terrible time. And then on top of it, there's only like 7 teams that have that cap. Now, he has been talking to Greedy Williams of the Eagles on Instagram, saying his favorite color is green and make it happen. So a lot of fans down here are really upset with that, and they should be. At the end of the day, Greedy Williams, of course, playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, his former teammate from LSU. And they're one of the teams that has the cap. The Colts have the cap, Panthers, Bears, Lions. But really, at the end of the day, his best situation is, in my opinion, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And of course,
Yeah.
Todd Bowles loves him, has
Mhm.
gone out and said in this postseason he makes tackles that he hasn't seen in 30 years from a linebacker. So he's definitely a part of this defense if he wants to be. He's a defensive captain. He has to shut up and play, show this organization that he's worth $100 million, and usually Jason Light will take care of you.
Right. Right. Well, you know what? I got some good news and bad news for you.
What's that? What's the
And
good
this is
news?
about my least favorite football team, the Commies out of Washington. Let me give you
Mm.
the bad news first. Jeff Bezos said that he will not bid on the Washington Commies. They asked him. Daniel and Tanya Schneider were accused of blocking him from buying the team. Someone in a source asked one of Bezos's people if he was going to bid on the team or if they were close, and they say he's not. He's not going to bid on them. Now, what breaks today is that
Mm.
just a few minutes ago, the Commies have been sold. Sources say an agreement has been reached to sell the Commies to Philadelphia 76 owner Josh Harris for $6 billion.
Wow.
He reached a preliminary agreement with the hedge fund leader as well as a company called Sportico. And part of the Sportico team is one Irvin Magic Johnson. So he will be part owner of the Commies, which
What do you
is
think about
amazing.
that? The Washington Commanders, I know you call them the Commies because you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, and the way they've been
Absolutely.
ran the last 20 to 25 years, it has to be better than what Daniel Snyder, all the allegations, all the mismanagement by the owner. You want an owner to be involved, but you don't want the Snyders to be involved. So I think it's a win-win for Washington Commander fans at the end of the day. And having Magic Johnson a part of that group is tremendous.
Can we first give a big fat timeout to Daniel Snyder?
Yeah.
Yay, the witch is dead. He's gone.
Yes.
Praise the Lord. Daniel Snyder is out. Now, one thing I do not like is when good things happen to the Commies. But Magic Johnson and them getting a new owner, Snyder being out, it looks like going to come out of the dark side. I looked on Twitter. There is just a bunch of tweets of memes with people dancing in the streets, crying for joy. They had one of LeBron James crying for joy. There is joy in Mudville because Daniel Snyder is out of the picture. He's gone.
He is gone. He is definitely gone. That was the breaking news of the day. Now, the Dolphins' Tyreek Hill says he'll retire after his contract ends. I'm going for 10 seasons, man. He'll be 31 years old when his contract runs out after the 2025 season. He told Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, Missouri, I'm going to finish out this contract with the Dolphins, and then I'm going to call it quits. I want to go into the business side. I want to do many things in my life, bro. And you kind of see more and more of this, Chris, because of, the concussions, the way the game is played. Also, hats off to him. If he has the money, if he saved all that money that he got from the Kansas City Chiefs and from the Miami Dolphins, good for him. You save yourself a career. I still feel like he's one of the top receivers in the league. Definitely a deep threat. But retiring at 2025, I think the Dolphins are kind of thinking, we'll see. It could be just talk. We'll see when that contract is up. And, it's toughest thing for a player to walk away from the game. And if you're still playing at that high level, it remains to be seen for me. This may be just attention or just the way he's feeling right now. But, Chris, if he's playing at the top of his game, I don't know if he's going to walk away in 2025. Just my opinion.
I don't know. It's a wise move. I mean, he's been to the Super Bowl a couple times. He's had a great career, and he's still talking 2 more seasons. So I think that's a good move on his part. He's still healthy. I mean, if I'm at the Magic Arena all the time. You see some of these NBA vets that are in the media now. These guys can barely walk, man. So, and I know that Tyreek had mentioned that he's into gaming. So he might start a gaming company or do some. It's cool to have all that money in the bank, still healthy, only 31 years old, man. He's got so many years ahead of him in life. I think that's a great move. Great move on Tyreek. I hope it happens for his sake. I won't be mad if he stays. Put it that way.
I'm surprised he didn't mention this last year when he joined up with Tua because I think he kind of was kicking himself after Patrick Mahomes won a Super Bowl. So I thought he would kind of say, I'm retiring. I need to go back to Kansas City because I made a mistake. And again, we'll see what happens with him and Tua if Tua could stay healthy, but definitely one of the best wide receivers in the league. Absolutely. If he's still playing at the top of his game, I don't see him walking away. But it's interesting to note, this is a thing that has gone around in the league, and you see more and more players every year walking away and retiring. We'll see if it happens this time. What's going on with OBJ?
We got a curious signing here. So OBJ signed a 1-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. It's a 1-year deal. He was scheduled to visit the Jets the next day, but he signed with the Ravens. Now, it came out afterwards that the Ravens gave him no indication that Lamar Jackson is coming back to be the quarterback for the Ravens. But there's a lot of rumors out there that Lamar helped recruit him, right? That's what you've heard, correct?
Right, absolutely. According to Pro Football Talk, Lamar Jackson recruited OBJ to the Ravens. So for me, this means that the Ravens were reaching out as an olive branch, if you will, to Jackson, saying, hey, look, we finally got your number one wide receiver who, by the way, I talked about this. It may have not just been money because the Ravens deserve a time. Why did it take you so long to go out and get a number one wide receiver like OBJ? And it remains to be seen if OBJ is even a number one wide receiver because he hasn't been on the field in the last 2 years. But when he is healthy, he absolutely can make things happen. And he's the biggest threat that Jackson has had in his career. Furthermore, the contract is $18 million with incentives, but realistically, it only counts like $1.5 million this year and $13 million overall. So it's a steal if he can stay healthy, and also if you can get Lamar Jackson to remain as your starting quarterback.
2 words: torn ACL. That's a major knee injury, and a lot of receivers do not come back from that. So it's a real gamble on the part of the Ravens, for sure.
Well, to that point, medical advances right now in the league have been a lot better. You have Chris Godwin, who's coming off an injury last year, had over 100 receptions. Wasn't as explosive as he was with the Bucs, but still had over 1,000 receiving yards, 100 receptions. In that second year, that's when you get a little bit better, and I feel like that's what the Ravens essentially are banking on, that OBJ can have, that speed, that elusiveness, that separation that he's had throughout his career, and help out Jackson. And you imagine now you have OBJ, you have J.K. Dobbins, of course you have Andrews at tight end. You start to see a pretty dangerous team if everybody can stay healthy and happy at the same time. Now let's go out to the Jets here. Joe Douglas is confident that Aaron Rodgers trade will happen. He's going to be here. I mean, when is this going to happen? I feel like we're 2 weeks away from the draft here, Chris. That's when it's going to happen. And I'm telling you right now, the Packers they're not going to give away Aaron Rodgers without getting a number one pick. And the Jets are trying to pull this game, or Rodgers is telling the Jets to hold out after the draft to make the trade. It's not going to happen. The Packers are going to get a number one pick. They're going to get multiple picks for a 2-time MVP. No matter if he's a prima donna or not, he's still playing at the highest level of his game. And if the Jets want Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have to pay the piper. And in this case, the piper is the Packers.
Right. And the decision and everything is supposed to come down draft day. That's what everyone expects, or around draft day. So it's going to be more than usual drama that day, just because, Aaron might be making a move. But everybody says that's where he's going. It just hasn't been settled yet.
Yeah, it hasn't been settled yet, and I was kind of wondering when OBJ, because Rodgers had a list out there and OBJ was on it, and I think Rodgers was being like Santa Claus, checking it twice, and if OBJ wasn't on it, was he still going to the Jets? So I don't think it's going to affect the situation. It certainly seems like, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, Rodgers chose the Jets. So we'll see if that deal happens in the next couple of weeks here on draft night. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic. They had a 12-win improvement from last season, 22-60. Now they're 34-48, was the most in the Eastern Conference, the third most in the league behind Sacramento, which was, of course, 48-34 this season after going 30-52, an 18-win improvement. Just talk about the Magic overall. You cover this team. How excited are you, and how excited should fans be next year about this young Magic team, namely Apollo Banchero and a friend's Wagner? Excuse me.
Right, no problem. The Magic are really in a strong position. They went, I believe, 5-20 to start the season. Their roster was decimated by injuries. But something they've gotten a lot of lessons in games, the way they've lost games and let games slip, and learned how to build up and remain resilient in games over this year and last year. So it's a lot of lessons going up, that's stacking up. Well, this happened. Okay. That happened. Okay. They no longer quit in games that they're down in. These guys are resilient. People that have come back from the injury list, for example, Markel Fultz, who used to average maybe 15, 16 points a game last year. He's up to 26 points a game this year. Last year, he was doing grandmama 3-point shots, ugly set
Sure.
shot. Now he's
Sure.
putting them up over his head. Shoulder is fully healed, and he leads that club like a champ aggressively. Franz Wagner has just gotten stronger in his game. Still a surprise when he came out at a draft because he's just a pure scorer and a solid game. Wendell Carter Jr. proved to be even more of an asset. He was traded to Orlando from Chicago when they got Vucevic and Fournier back then, and now like Carter, when he came, he wasn't very confident. Now he's like the centerpiece of the defense. Lots of blocks, lots of defensive plays and scoring, hitting consistent threes. And also the biggest one is Paolo. Paolo is a wonder. They were asking the players if he's a college kid, if he was going to hit a wall. They're just like, no, there's no wall in Paolo. Paolo is going to be there. He's the leading scorer of all rookies. He's by far the lead for Rookie of the Year this season. He plays like a seasoned vet. He's only been in 1 year, so he's only get better. The Magic will have 2 draft picks in the top 10 in the first round. They have their own draft pick that's in the lottery. They also have the Chicago Bulls draft pick because of the Vucevic trade. So the skies are bright for Orlando in the coming season. They ended on a positive note, increase in wins, solid wins against good teams. It's the upper elite like Milwaukee, teams like that really gave them the time. They beat the Boston Celtics all 3 times they faced them this year. So this team is ready to make a move next year. So it's really, really looking bright in Orlando.
What's the biggest need, in your opinion, you go for in this draft lottery? Is it at shooting guard? Is that Jalen Suggs' job to lose? Or do you keep him on the bench because it seems like he's had success there? He's developed confidence. He got better from last year, but they expected a lot out of him. Remember, he was a lottery pick also. So what's your biggest position? Where are you going with those 2 possible? I think one of them is going to definitely be a lottery. That's going to be the Magics. We'll see about the Bulls because now the Bulls are still playing after defeating the Raptors. We'll get to that in a moment because that was interesting in itself. But yeah, where do you go? What's your needs there, in your opinion?
They need shooting. They need consistent 3-point shooting. They need a sharpshooter, really. They do have Gary Harris, who's improved tremendously as the season went on. He's definitely dependable, but they do need more 3-point shooting. They could be stronger in defense. So it's wait and see. But they have those assets. They can always trade. They do need more of a veteran presence on that squad. They brought back Michael Carter Williams just for that purpose. But they do need more of a veteran leadership presence on there. We need a Udonis Haslem in our locker room just to get some old, get a rocking chair in the locker room over there.
Do you go after a big name free agent to kind of settle that locker room in, or are you scared of ruining the chemistry that you have right now with this young Magic team?
It's the chemistry. So I don't know if they need a big name free agent. They need a solid vet for sure. Because that chemistry is really solid now. They're a solid brotherhood. Play, definitely next man up offense and defense. And they learn as they go. A big disappointment, of course, was Jonathan Isaac, who got injured again. He said he'll be ready for the beginning of the next season, but I think he's a $17 million cap hit if he's still around at that point. So I expect to see a change there, and a couple other players that might be on their way out. By the way, their final game happened to be Udonis Haslem's farewell game. So Udonis played for I think only the 4th time this season and scored 24 points.
Yeah, you went all Kobe Bryant on the Magic.
Yeah, he did.
This final game, it seemed like the Magic that day didn't necessarily want to play defense, but 4 points doesn't seem like a lot. But to Haslam, and I didn't even know he was still playing. I remember him coming out with the Florida Gators there, but goodness gracious, now he's retiring. I mean, how many years, Chris, has it been that he's been in this league. Was it 20 years?
I think it's 20 years. Yeah.
20 years. Wow. So amazing. I didn't even know he was still around, but there he
Still around.
is, going all Kobe Bryant, sort of, with
End
20
of the bench. Sort of.
Magic. What do you do with Buh Bye? What do you do with him? Because he's shown flashes of brilliance. He's kind of like a unicorn. He still has to develop his game. How does he fit into this Orlando Magic team going forward, in your opinion?
Fans, Bol is beloved by the fans. Also beloved, of course, by his fellow players. But on defense, he's a liability. He can block shots, but he's not quick on his feet. I did ask the coach about that earlier in the season. He said, "Well, just get him down and have other players around him. Make sure that those defensive deficits that he has can be covered by others." But you don't want that, man. You want a guy that can really hold his own as far as that. So I think that's Bol's weakness. So we'll see. They did get some big Russian Goga dude who took Bol's minutes towards the end of the season. And he's not a great player, but he's a big presence, solid, which the Magic needed inside. And you didn't see much of Bol towards the end of the season once they got Goga.
Yeah, he's a rim protector.
Goga Bitadze. That was his name.
Say that 3 times. He's a rim protector, basically.
Absolutely. Just a big dude.
We'll see what the Magic do here in the next couple months. It's all going to unfold. You have the draft. When's the draft? What is it? Is it also a couple of weeks away?
No, it's in June, I believe. It's usually in June.
Yeah. It seems like it's a couple of weeks away. I'm thinking of the NFL draft, but we'll see.
The draft is coming up. Yep.
Still got the playoffs, play-in tournament games. I mean, have you watched some of it? Because it's been very entertaining. What do you think?
Yeah, excellent basketball. Interesting stories leading into that. Rudy Gobert was played with the Timberwolves, and they made it into the tournament like on the last day. But Gobert, they have another player on the team that just talks a lot of trash and says he just is on everybody. So Gobert punches him in the shoulder. It looked like he hit him in the head, but he missed. He hit him in the shoulder. Gobert was pulled out of the game.
Kyle Anderson. Yes.
Kyle Anderson.
Yeah.
He was suspended for their play-in game because of that, right? Suspended. And then another player, Jaden McDaniels, punches a concrete on the way out of the arena and injures his hand. So he's out for their play-in game. Now they're playing the game. They have to face the Lakers on opening night. And they were leading the Lakers through most of the game, 3/4 of the game. They were up 12-14. But the Lakers came back, tied it. They went into overtime, and the Lakers took the win. So that's how the Lakers got in. On the other side, Miami Heat were playing the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks have been disappointed all year. The Heat haven't been superstars either. Not really, really great. The Hawks came ready to play. The Heat came out with a lack of energy, and Atlanta stole one from them. Clint Capella had 21 rebounds by himself. I think Miami had about 8. So it was just a total domination. They did not show up, but they get a chance. Atlanta goes on to play Celtics. The Heat get a chance to go and face. They have to face Chicago. I'm sorry, they face the Raptors. For the final spot in the East. The Raptors battled with the Chicago Bulls. And then the interesting about that game was DeMar DeRozan, his little daughter wanted to go to the game from Chicago. The game was in Toronto. Did you hear this story?
Yes, I heard this story. Yes.
Go ahead, tell the story, man.
She was screaming at the top of her lungs every time Toronto decided to take a free throw. And she was awesome. I mean, it was probably annoying to the person that was sitting in front of her, but it was highly effective because what did Toronto go in that game? I mean, they made 7.
They made 8 of 16 or 8 of 19 free throws.
Right.
And that was the game because the game was close.
Right.
So the Heat will face the Raptors, and their reward is to face the number 1 Milwaukee Bucks, who are going to mow through everybody until they see some more competition. The Lakers are now the other playing game from the West. OKC went against the New Orleans Pelicans.
It's Chicago. They beat the Raptors, so now Chicago is going to face who? They're going to face the Heat.
So now Chicago gets the 7th spot, I believe. That Chicago gets in, and the Raptors, the Raptors face the Heat.
Okay, Raptors face the Heat. See, we got to get this. We got to get this
all
right.
This straight, man. Yeah,
get this straight. Yeah, it's crazy.
Straight. I wrote this.
I thought Toronto was done after losing to Chicago.
Right. Yeah. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Chicago won, so Chicago faces the Heat. The Raptors are done.
Yeah, Raptors are done. Yeah,
right. And that little girl.
Right.
I get confused because DeRozan used to be in the Raptors, so
that's what it is. That's the craziest thing about it. That's the most ironic thing about it, Chris. And of course, whoever wins that series between the Heat and the Chicago Bulls, I'm even confused now, will face the Milwaukee Bucks.
They face the Milwaukee Bucks. Yes.
With that, I think the Bucks could actually win it all. Besides Phoenix. I mean, those are my two. Those are my two picks coming into it. You talked about the West already. You buying the Lakers?
They have a healthy LeBron and a healthy Anthony Davis, a good supporting cast now, and no Russell Westbrook. They're not a great team, but they have LeBron and AD, so that will take them a long way. But I don't think they'll get past Phoenix. Not with Durant and Booker and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton. They have too many weapons. I don't think they can do it. The Pelicans lost to OKC. The Pelicans, Zion Williamson was cleared to play, but he did not want to play because he said he doesn't feel like Zion yet. As they were claiming it might be a mental thing, so you can only criticize it, but so much. But you get that typical talk, it's the playoffs. You're not going to stand up for your guys, So anyway,
right, exactly. All right, so the play-in tournament's going to be Bulls versus the Heat. Yep. And then it's the Thunder versus the Timberwolves. And then the Lakers are going to be playing the Grizzlies.
Yep, which will be a fantastic series. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Couple coaches fired at the end of the season. Two teams with some of the worst records in the league. Dwayne Casey, the Detroit Pistons. He's being moved up to the front office. Paul Silas Jr. is gone. From the Houston Rockets. They had a lot of talent, a lot of young talent on the Rockets, but not enough to make a difference.
Well, I hope Detroit gets the number 1 overall pick because they were clearly the worst team last year in the NBA. Give me some final thoughts here on Timeout on 24 Flix.
Final thoughts. Timeout is going very, very well, very popular. So glad that you stuck with me and making this happen. I think it's a great show, and we have a lot of fun giving people like Daniel Snyder the timeout for Commie. So great show. I hope everyone will stick with us. We're going to keep putting them out there, and let's just keep watching some great sports, man. So much is going on.
Yeah, so many great things going on right now. We're only a couple weeks away from the NFL draft. You have Major League Baseball going on, the start of the season, the Tampa Bay Rays and their success. Can they continue to do that? And then, of course, the NBA playoffs. Who's going to get there? It's a long way away, but we'll definitely be covering it here on 24 Flix on Timeout. For the great Chris Cuff, I'm your host, Peter Blake. Tune in to Timeout because you never know when you're going to get a timeout.